Bickley and Marotta Mornings. Arizona Sports. The local sports leader. Bickley Blast.
The Suns have a laundry list of issues from size to depth to point guard, but there is one essential element they must import before next season, something that will not cost them a dime or require any dramatic trades. It's called happiness, human emotion, joy that can be seen on the basketball court. And I say this because I have noticed the hiring of Mike Budenholzer hasn't tweaked the optimism meter the way I thought it might in the Valley. And I think the fun factor is a big reason why. Because last year's Suns were harder on the eyes than they looked in the standings. They were a 49-win team that displayed moments of brilliance, but they rarely showed the chemistry and connectivity that not only makes you dangerous as a basketball team, it made the Suns unlikable to an uncomfortably large percentage of their viewing audience. And that is the truth, because nobody can rally around a chilling group of athletes who are too cool for school. And while the lack of passion and personality made it nearly impossible for Planet Orange to embrace last year's Suns, it also made many Suns fans yearn for a different team, a different era, a different set of leaders, which is why happiness needs to be a key offseason addition for the Suns. Because really, being a sports fan isn't a job, it's a choice from the heart. It's an expression of what brings us joy. And it would be nice if our next basketball team could do the same, maybe even match or exceed our excitement, if that isn't too much to ask.
I apologize. You're asking for happiness.
Yeah, listen, you're running the soundboard. You choose what you choose.
Can the Suns, moving forward, stop worrying?
Well, they're not worrying. I don't think the worrying is the issue.
Well,
the
I'm trying
issue
to tie
is,
in the song.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. I think that, but I do think that this is something that is bigger than just the connectivity of the basketball team. It's the connectivity of them to us, and that was clearly lacking last year.
We talked about this during the course of the season. Certainly, it lingered in the playoffs. And that was the number of people you either talked to, ran into, interacted with on social media that said, I've been watching this team my entire life. And this was the most joyless, frustrating version of the Phoenix Suns I ever saw.
Yeah.
And you can get past the frustrating part. Some people can. A lot of people couldn't get past the fact that, and I'm not going to go fully into retro mode and say, I wish, we're nostalgic about this. A lot of people are. But they went from a group that really took a lot of joy, and it was visible joy in playing with each other, competing with each other, winning with each other. And even when the Suns won, there wasn't a lot of it. And there was an increase in that area late in the regular season, but it kind of felt manufactured. Like they were
a little bit.
Yeah. Like, the last couple weeks of the season, and a lot of this coincided with Isaiah Thomas getting signed to a couple 10-day contracts, and then they kept him on for the rest of the season. And there was a reason they did that. They wanted a veteran leadership who had an appreciation of the game to kind of help rub off. So what happened in that last month of the season when Isaiah Thomas was there? We saw him kind of leading the bench unit in supporting the guys on the floor. We saw a lot of the guys from the bench spring up from their chairs to help players who had, gone down underneath the basket, which you see good teams do all the time. It's simple stuff,
right?
But you didn't see that all year.
Yeah, no, but I also want it from the front. I don't want it from the back. I don't want the joy being manufactured from the back of the bench. I want it on the court, up front, with the team leaders. That's what I want to see from this basketball team. That should not be too much to ask. And if it's tweaking personalities, whatever, this is something that, again, this is the way you appeal to a fan base. And I'm very, very serious when I say this, that rarely would my optimism about a story involving the Suns maybe exceed the local optimism. But I feel that way about Mike Budenholzer. I feel like the more you learn, the more you listen to him, the more you realize, okay, this guy might be able to kind of put pieces of this puzzle together in a way that actually makes sense on a basketball court. But I think so many people are just down on this team and its dour personality.
Yeah.
And some of the reports that have come out. And again, the idea that the report that that Kevin Durant went 3 months without talking to Frank Vogel, which was whittled down to 1 month. As I said before, nobody takes that literally. I don't think anybody believes, Kevin Durant just refused to say a word to the head coach. But is the essence of it true? Was there that kind of breakdown? Was there that kind of skepticism and jaded behavior from the group? Not only joyless, but jaded.
Yes.
Where you're rolling your eyes at your own head coach because you don't think he knows what he's talking about.
Don't focus on the amount of time that was reported. Focus on the reported obstacle between player and coach.
That's it. That's well said, Vinny.
Yeah.
Well said.
But if you're still of those fans, and I agree with you, I walked away, and you know me. I mean, Gambo thinks I'm the most negative person in the world.
Heard that somewhere.
And talks about it every
top
day
10.
on his show.
Just kidding. Go ahead.
But I walked away from the Mike Budenholzer press conference more optimistic. You walked away from it more optimistic.
Very much so.
And we're two jaded jerks. Let's be honest about it.
Well, for a lot of reasons. I mean, he's local. He understands us.
Yes.
You can tell this moment and this job means the world to him. You can tell it means the world to him because it means the world to his dad and his family. There's something intensely personal about this that I'm very excited about.
Yeah, and if you're of that mindset, hey, I'm giving up on this team. This is done. They completely ruined it. That's your prerogative. But it doesn't necessarily, what we saw last year does not have to carry over into the future. And that's your tendency to believe what we just saw is going to be the norm moving forward. I brought this up before. Tonight we're getting game one. We're going to get into the series in just a second, too. Minnesota-Dallas for the Western Conference Finals. Two teams who a year ago were being pointed at and laughed at from NBA circles. Look what they did. They destroyed their team with trades. How do you trade for Kyrie Irving and not even make the playoffs? You already had Karl Anthony Towns and you trade for Rudy Gobert. You ruined that team. They're both 4 games away from playing for a title. And Will Dawkins is the general manager of the Washington Wizards, and he was on the Run It Back podcast with Rachel Nichols. And the subject was, you put this big 3 together. Are you shocked they didn't go further? Here's how that exchange went down.
Are you shocked they didn't go further? You don't have to answer that. We are. We are shocked by that. What happened?
Again, instant gratification doesn't work year one all the time.
It really doesn't.
You stick with it. I think you saw it in the teams that are playing in the playoffs right now in the Western Conference. Like, things take time.
Instant gratification doesn't work first year all the time. Stick with it. That's why I like this idea of bringing the big 3 back.
Okay.
And again, next year, if we're seeing something similar or another, you fall short of your goals next year, we're having much different conversations in May of 2025.
My issue with the big 3 right now, conceptually, is that if you bring this back, it's the fundamental issue of a point guard. And Kellen Olson has said this, okay, fine, bring in a point guard, but then you got to move Bradley Beal to the bench to make it work. Or you bring a point guard in as a much lesser sort of role as a change up with the second unit. This is where conceptually I'm not sure that this is the best way to go about it. Well, I'm not against it because I do think that they underachieved.
Let me frame it differently. That is, do you need a point guard in your top 4 guard rotation? I think absolutely. Doesn't have to be a starter, but somebody who's getting substantial minutes on a day in, day out basis. That's how I view it.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.